Lucian,
Like, yeah.
I think
Yes,
this is a great time to start this conversation. What do you think?
yes.
Should we just ease
I think
into
it's
it?
great. Yes.
How old are you?
I'm about to turn 37 now
Okay,
in
so
maybe 2 weeks.
okay. So this is like the age where you're growing, you're becoming mature, you start to develop a vision. Uh, okay, then tell me. So compared to the time that you started out, what is that you feel like has changed drastically in the way you look at the industry?
Oh man, so many things have changed. I mean, both personally and professionally. Imagine like I started this Argus company. In the beginning, we were called Lucian R. It was me and another friend of mine from big. And then we were working in Copenhagen in a kind of common office. Well, at the time, they were called these kind of office hubs or like the type of we office, you know. And then what happened was that we were just a side. It was kind of like a side hustle for us. We were planning to do architecture and then do visuals on the side. But because I worked in architecture for like 10 years before that in architectural companies, like big companies like Kengo Kuma and BRK Ingles Group in Copenhagen and Kengo Kuma was in Tokyo and stuff like that. So I was already having a bunch of friends working in these companies. And while while I was doing these visuals on the side and doing architectural competitions on the other, people started writing, "Hey, can you help me with 2, 3 images? Can you help me with 5 images?" And all of a sudden, the two of us couldn't cope anymore. So we had to get like some other friends to join. And I think all of a sudden we were like 6, 7 people in Bucharest because we moved to Bucharest because of several things. We had to move from Copenhagen to Bucharest in 2019 after 1 year having the company in Copenhagen because we were like my dad was I mean, at the time was like he was already gone. He was dead. But he was getting sick. My mom was alone. I had to help my family in a bit. My also my brothers and stuff like that. We wanted to be a bit closer together. But it was also like to be frank, it was also like this other thing called the economy, which the taxes in Denmark are like maybe like 50% or something like that. So for us, like a small company paying all the taxes to the government was a no go at the time. So especially because we were so tiny. So we moved to Bucharest. Two other guys, Mircea and Nick, joined us. That they're like both partners now. And then slowly we started building up the company, and then now we're like about, as I said earlier, we're about 40 people in Bucharest, which is kind of a nice number. Maybe 80 by next year. Because once you get to grow a bit, it's also like a bit growing incrementally. It's not like a slow growth anymore. It's
Wait a
growing
minute,
faster.
but you said 40 or 14?
40.
Okay, that's a big company
Yeah.
already. And if you plan
Yeah,
to
it's
become 80, that's
yeah,
huge.
yeah. It's not huge, but it's a good number. I mean, it's
It's
helpful to
pretty
be.
big
Yeah,
for standards in
yeah.
this
Oh
field.
yeah. Also for like Bucharest and Romania in general, we're like three companies here. Maybe you. I mean, for sure you know all of them. You know Panopticon and Tegmark and so on. So what changed besides the fact that you get into this tumble dryer of things, like things constantly keep changing because you're like two people, then you're 4, 6, 8, 40, probably 80. But it was also like on the personal kind of level. Like I came to Bucharest like 2019, which is like 4 years ago. And then I got married. My dad passed away. Then I'm about to have a kid now. It's gonna get born in like anytime after 2 weeks now. So I'm pretty
Congratulations.
excited. Yeah, thanks, man. That's the reason we couldn't make the interview the other day because I was running around a bit. So yeah, things change quite a lot. And of course, you start as like a kid banging his kind of head around the walls, even though you're like 30 something, you still don't have the experience. And by the time you 4 or 5 years past, you feel like this ancient Gandalf from Game of Thrones, kind of like sitting there trying to understand the world and how things are moving. And yeah,
Yeah, man.
that's
I can feel the pain. Like and at the speed in which things are moving right now, all it takes is 6 months away from production to basically don't know all the plugins that came out in 3ds Max, all the new material libraries, and it's like you look at things and it's like, have I ever done this job?
Yeah, exactly, right? Like what's happening with TimeFlow? Nothing works anymore. Like Photoshop has been updated for 2 times now. Like where is the zoom control? Like
It's
what's this new generate fields kind of thing? Like what is this new AI doing to my images?
it's funny because a few weeks ago I was talking to a friend and we were discussing AI, which it's been a hot topic, but now it's not anymore, which is so funny because it shows how fast we go through information and through changes and through, you know. And we were talking about the fact that when I first started out, if you were using Evermotion models to make a rendering of an interior space, you were cheating because you were not modeling everything yourself. And I'm like, now if you look back and you think how stupid we were back then, right? Because we had this
Well,
idea of
it's like,
being pure 3D artists.
but I mean, like, imagine, like, when we started the company, and even maybe now we still do it in the office. We're not like using a interior scene from Evermotion. We're using like everything, like even settings. You just like open a Evermotion scene, you just drop your 3D in there and press render, and that's it. Jump to the next image. No time to test and stuff like that. But yeah, like things they just like. But the thing with AI, it's pretty interesting. I don't think that it just faded. I think it got assimilated.
Yeah.
Like yeah, it just becomes a standard procedure. It's like, oh yeah, AI. I just need to refix the foreground. Just gonna generate a new foreground. And that's it done. And I'm not even talking about like Midjourney and stuff like that because we're testing with that so much. It's like every time we do an image, we test like maybe we do few Midjourney variations and then we choose a bunch and then now we also have all these softwares that turn it into videos and stuff like that. So we use it as teasers for videos. And I think AI, it's pretty amazing tool that just got absorbed into our DNA so fast. It feels like it was always there. Like when you look back and think like, how the hell were people living without it before?
And
Like
to me, what it's funny is that I was observing some interactions online of people that were like, I'm gonna block anybody who uses AI. And it's like, okay, first of all, like, whatever, like, and it's just a weird time to be alive, people are just so polarized when it comes to.
yeah, but I think I'm not sure. Is it like an age thing? Is it like are people divided by age where the youngsters they're just like more kind of like offensive and trying to be creative and not absorbing all the new tech, and the old guys they just or is it the other way? Or like how does it work? Because you're like more into this kind of world. Yeah, like your hands are really deep into the community. So
I can tell you that when I first started out, the first big revolution was brought by the very first versions of V-Ray. And so at the time, I remember we could only render images up to 1200 pixels. We did not have 64 bits machines. And so, there wasn't a lot of documentation online. But I remember I was working as an architect, and so we would make very quick renderings of the SketchUp models. And we had illustrators that were making watercolor things, and these guys were so angry that we would make these renderings because they were like upset about it.
yeah,
And
like
like
both stealing their jobs and also like making it nicer than them, So it's like
and that's the crazy thing that back then we did not even know that in V-Ray there were lights. Like we would just click render, we would just apply materials with sketch. We're talking about 2007, I think, 2008.
it's kind of like diffuse, kind
Yeah,
of like
the diffuse look, right? And
yeah.
and that's the thing. And then at a certain point I started to suggest to the people that we were working with, look, if I give you this and then you just watercolor on top of it, maybe something interesting could come out. And I don't know, man. I've seen V-Ray coming out, and people were like, "Yeah, this is going to kill everything." Then I saw Corona coming out, and people were like, "Oh, now the architects can make their own renderings." And then I've seen Unreal Engine coming out, and people were like, "Oh, now people are going to make their own animations." And then every time there was something that was gonna end our life, our careers, and here
Also,
we are.
you've been through four Armageddons already.
Yeah, do you understand? I,
Yeah.
I remember when they announced V-Ray for Revit, that people were like, "Oh, this is the end," like architects are not going to need us anymore. And
Since I have few friends now few friends, most of my friends now, they know I'm into RVs. They're like, "Oh yeah, so what's happening with AI? Is it gonna colonize the whole industry and your job is over?" Yeah, man, I wish, but like in the last maybe 200,000 years of human evolution, we've never seen a tool that replaced everything before it. So for us to make a cart with like four wheels that can be dragged by a horse, we had to first like make a wheel and then slowly build up something like a cart. And so things they just like develop. It's never like a new tool that's going to replace everything before it.
and I
It's just
also
going to be
think
something
that
that
I also think that there is a certain creativity quality to us creatives, and that's a game of words, where we don't, well, the real creatives, I don't think that they would let this happen. I think that they would find a way to readapt and repurpose their skills to sort of like fit a little bit better what the market is asking. Uh, I don't know. It seems like you guys are doing great. The work that you're making looks amazing. Um, Actually, why don't we talk a little bit about that? Because I'm really interested in finding out a little bit the way that you develop your ideas, how the process starts. Uh, you can take this over.
Yeah, like we were just talking about changes earlier, and then the way kind of things changed. And in a way, technically, they also changed it in the office because in the beginning, we also had like slower machines. So it was more like maybe we would take a project, like myself and my partner, we would just take a project that like Ovi, it's his name. He's like the first guy that joined the office. And then we would take maybe a project where we would be like maybe 10 images and we would split it 5-5. And then we would have 10, like 2 weeks to finish it. So we would work on slow machines and then we would have to optimize everything. And the forest pack was kind of like, we would have to be very careful with how many plants we use there, especially in areas and stuff like that. We couldn't just go nuts with like the amount of forests. And then everything had to be super calculated. But then in the last 4 years, like chips got like insanely faster. And now we have like all the Ryzens and stuff. By the way, I'm dropping all these names of softwares and hardware. We don't get any sponsorships for people that are
Us
listening.
neither.
Yeah, like nobody paid us for this. But regardless, I'm still going to drop names. And then now everything got much faster, and then we can produce things way faster. And then we don't care about how much we load the RAM because we have like tons of RAMs on all the computers and video as well and that. But I think what really makes our life easier. I'm not sure how others are doing it. I've never worked in any other artist company. I've never been to any other artist company besides Denmark, which was like back in 2000 and something. And then I think in a way, the way we work, it's pretty ad hoc. Like we get a project and then we don't have a strategy. Like we just split the images between us. And then everybody takes an image and then does it in their own freestyle way. I think if there's one thing that kind of governs the whole thing is that we, from very early stages of the office, we set and made sure that we have good settings, which means like we get the white balance right. So in all our images, we try to get the white balance right, which is maybe 80% of the image. And then the rest, it's like composition is maybe 10 to, I don't know, 15%. We don't care about composition because it's hard to kind of like it's hard to have your hands on the composition because the architect wants something, the I don't know, everybody wants something else out of that composition. So in the end, you're pretty much your image is governed by some given composition that's coming from somewhere above you in a way. And then what we're mainly concerned about it's white balance and animation. When I'm talking about animation, I'm talking about how we populate the image with like chairs and stuff like that. What we're trying not to put big people in the foreground and stuff like that, so it's kind of calm the image and stuff. And of course, maybe 5 years ago when we started, we were mainly concerned about like hyperrealism. So we still post images from 5 years ago when we try to be kind of hyper real about our images. But now we kind of dropped that. And I think it's not even that. I mean, I personally like hyperrealism a lot, but the pain and struggle you have to go through, and then convincing all the clients and the clients above the clients and the clients above their clients and clients and clients and so on, it's in the end it doesn't pay off because there's like one person that's like, you know what, day view is not great. Maybe let's try to make it night. And you're like, oh man, like all that those 2 weeks of hard work trying to make this hyper realistic, and now I have to change it in 2 days and make it night. Next time I'm just gonna make it all 3D and I'm gonna ignore the hyperrealism of the image. So I think that's how we. I think if there's one thing that like it governs, it's our concept of the office. We called it like the 2 weeks heuristics, where things they just happen rather than being like pushed. Instead of like having a complete set of concepts that we push to make the image great, things just flow, you know? It's like, somebody takes an image, somebody takes an image, they develop in their own style and stuff like that.
That is
I
interesting
think
that
that,
you're saying this because I think that, there is a lot of truth in the fact that processes work better when you just let them happen, right? When you allow for inertia to sort of like kick in and move things forward. Is that correct?
yeah, exactly. Like imagine like not everybody has the same pace. Some people are slower, some people are faster, some people are more skilled into some certain areas. And I think letting everybody do their own pace in a way, it's kind of like the way you want things to move forward, not only in ArcVis, but I think in general. Like I remember the struggle I've been through in school when I was like a teen. And then I had to, in a way, like when you're in school, involuntary you're going to compete with like other students, you know, because like the teachers expect you to be as good as all the others, but you can't because some people are more prone to knowing mathematics and some people are more prone to kind of like remember grammar and stuff like that. I was prone to remembering nothing. You know, it's kind of like it was like so painful the process, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's the
and i
thing.
don't want
This is the
and I
thing.
don't want that to repeat in our office. I want people to kind of find their own pace.
But I think this is beautiful that in a way you sort of like you understood that and you're like, okay, how can I make uh, my own effort into changing, this kind of standard, right? Because in a lot of offices, people try to push their own standards and to say that's how we do things and that's the only way, when actually real creativity is to understand what a person can bring to the table and sort of like understand how can you harvest those skills to sort of like get something out of that, right? And I think that in the work that you guys do, because it's so creative and so varied, I'm assuming that you kind of support that attitude, or am I making the wrong assumption?
No, that's precisely how it works. And my fear, it's maybe a stretch, but my worry was that maybe if we don't have like a kind of our own style in a way, things are not going to go the right way. Everybody's going to push in 10 different directions and we're going to end up with like so many different things. But what happened was that quite early in the stage, we developed a style that is kind of flawless. I mean, not that I mean, it doesn't sound humble at all, but it was kind of like flawless for our standards, you know, let's put it that way. It was our, like, this is our top. We cannot get over this. This is like the best we can do. I'm happy with this. And then somehow others they can look at that style and say, "Ah, this is pretty good." And then if you're like a newbie, like you just come in the industry and you look at that style and like, "Ah, this is good. I mean, I like that stuff." And then you go and maybe work into that community or office or whatever, and then you kind of like try to achieve that level of an image, you know. So in a way, things they go by themselves in that direction. You don't have to push that kind of that level or that standard. Simply things move in that way.
So let me ask you another thing. Now that you described a little bit this process, then it's interesting to me to understand what it is that you look for in an artist when they apply for a job at your place. What is it that you look for?
I mean, originally we thought that the best way to do it is like, okay, now we have a bunch of maybe CVs. We look at the most experienced guy, and then we have an interview. Then we figure out actually that's not the way to go, but it's maybe like, in a way, people coming out of school, they're like they're willing to learn things, and they don't have yet like a super fixed idea of how things should be done, and then they can just be absorbed much easier. That doesn't mean that it's 100% rule that's going to function. Most of the times, maybe it's just going to be like zero development, and then that's that. But in a way, it's that we're looking into now compared to what we used to look into. You know, we used to be more like, oh yeah, the most experienced guy is probably the best to have in the office. But now it's more like, yeah, maybe the younger guy that has like some will to kind of learn new things. It's a better fit. I know it could sound contradictory with what I said earlier, that we don't want to push things, but that's the thing. Like if there's like a super experienced guy that has maybe more experience than we have, I mean, that's only going to happen. What's going to happen is that one style is simply going to go in parallel with the whole office. Whereas somebody that's new and doesn't have yet the skills, they're just going to look at the stuff we do and be like, oh yeah, I want to achieve that level of.
That's always the tricky part with creativity because like I've noticed sort of like the same thing in our company. The most experienced people, they do things that work, but things that work aren't always the most interesting ones, you know, because like those guys have developed the skills to get the project done, whereas the most interesting work, at least in our office, comes out from the younger people. And so if I go to somebody that is young, like, you know, at their first or second job, and I tell them, listen, we have this client, they want this, let's make some extra images that were not asked by the client. Usually the more interesting shots, they come from the younger people because they don't have that bias that the most experienced one have. And so I guess this is also a little bit of something to learn how to manage with time, because you still need the experience of the older people to drive a project forward. But that creativity that the younger people can bring, it's extremely valuable. And I don't know, have you had sort of like a similar experience in your practice?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. And if there's one thing that's like also pretty good, I mean, it sounds pretty dramatic that like all the youngsters are great. I mean, it's not, the fact is not true. It's
It's
like a
not
lot
always like that.
coming out of school, they can suck, which I mean, it's normally negative. I mean, that's the fair reality. I mean, let's face it. But again, like now in our office, at least we're kind of already a bunch of like oldies, or at least plus 30, that are quite experienced. So now I feel that, I mean, we're lucky enough to live in Romania where there's not so many artist companies. So even if there's like what I was saying earlier is that the guy that comes out of school, but in reality, even if there's like the 30-something-year-old that applies or comes to our office, most of the guys in Romania haven't been working in our offices, which is great in a way because they just come with like no kind of like fixed idea of how things should look like. So in a way, we just like we all push towards kind of like the same style, which is it's limiting, but it's also great that we don't have too many styles. And like at the end of the day, you also have a client because you do these images, you don't do it for yourself. So you do it for somebody. So it's nice that you don't bombard them with like 30 images that all look different, but rather like maybe 20 images that are consistent and 10 that look a bit weird, you know?
At one point, you have to let the client be the art director, right?
Yeah. Which is, I mean, a lot of people are just gonna shoot you down for saying that to class, the client, you're an artist, you need to stand up for. Yeah, man, I know. But I read a bit of art history, and I heard about like Van Gogh, and I've heard about Monet, and I've heard about all these guys, and I know what they've been up to, you know. And they're still like they made it into history, you know. It's with their compromise towards the clients.
It's funny to me that you call yourself an oldie because you're 30 plus, and I'm like, man, what the fuck are you talking about?
I know. It's I guess it started to with like life expectancy in Romania as well.
You
And
know,
like expectancy for men in Romania is like 74 or 75 compared to Italy where it's like 137. I don't know what is it.
we drink a lot of coffee. It keeps us awake, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
It's funny that you say that thing about the artists. A few years back, I was in Rome and we went to see the Sistine Chapel. And they told us basically the story that Michelangelo, I think it was Michelangelo that painted it. You know, like
Yeah.
I don't know.
You can fix this in posting it.
Nah, it doesn't matter. You know, I'm not a pretentious douchebag. But anyway,
Yeah.
what the tour guide said is that what a lot of people think is that Michelangelo was an artist who was commissioned the Sistine Chapel. But the reality is that there are records that show that actually Michelangelo was imprisoned and had to create the Sistine Chapel. It's like, and so it's
It's
like,
like, dude,
okay, so nothing has changed.
yeah, exactly. We give you two options. You either spend the life in prison and maybe get executed, or paint a nice chapel, you know? Let me think about it. Even get some money on the side. Yeah, yeah. But I mean, of course, like nothing has changed. We're like the same kind of type of humans. We're like some tech changes, and then we get our life more extended, and life is better and stuff like that. We get a bunch of medicine, and we run faster and jump higher because of like supplements. But other than that, things they just like it's a bit of the basics, you know.
Man, let me ask you a question that I ask all the people that I interview on my channel. Looking back at the Lucian of 10 years ago, what is one thing that you would tell that person if you had the chance to go back?
Oh, interesting question. I never thought about it. I could say what I would say Lucian from 10 years now, but like if I would go back and I have to warn myself, I don't know, just keep it real, something like that. I don't know.
Buy
It's like,
Bitcoin.
yeah, buy Bitcoin, motherfucker. Yeah, no, but not even because like I think like if I were to go back in history and tell myself to buy Bitcoin, that would mean that I will alter the reality of the future. So for sure, Bitcoin would just go down and I lose my house. You know, so I don't know, like yeah, just like I don't know, just like pat myself on the back and be nice to myself or something like that.
I guess that all things considered, looking at the way that you have developed your company and the impression that I get from talking to you, maybe if you went back, you should just tell your younger self, you're gonna be all right. Don't worry. Just keep
Oh
going.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, stuff like that. We should. I think all of us should do to ourselves, and you should do it to your friends and everybody constantly. Just remind them that things they just like they're gonna be fine. You know, it's only like one target. We're all going there. Relax, take it easy. It's just a journey. Yeah. No, but that's like pretty spiritual. I like that. That's for sure. Like if I like now that you've been giving me this idea, I'll totally go back and be like, dude, relax.
Lucian, I'm very intrigued by the sculpture that you have behind you. What is that?
Yeah, it's a friend of ours that has this kind of furniture slash sculpture kind of shop, and she is also having this for sale. So we're I'm not sure if it's my wife that took care of it. I'm not sure if she got it as a present or if she bought it, or it's called Cultivating Spaces that I can share. Still not being paid for it, but
Have you ever thought of like scanning it and putting it into your renderings also as a mean to give her a little bit
no,
of
but I
help?
should. It's a good idea. I think you should probably at least as a picture, as a 2D cutout, should go somewhere
It's very
because
beautiful.
it's a
Like
nice one.
I
Yeah,
like.
it's a bit like it's like this Romanian sculptor from like 1900s. It's called Brancusi or Brancusi in Romanian. It's pretty famous. He's probably like our only super famous Romanian artist. He was like a modernist. I'm not sure if you know about him, but
I
he's done
never
a
heard
bunch
of
of
it.
buildings. And a lot of architects quote him now when they do architecture stuff. I've seen Rem Koolhaas doing a tower in Manhattan, like OMA, and then they called it the Brancusi. And then I've seen Norman Foster quote him Brancusi. He's kind of cool. He's a cool guy.
I'm gonna make sure to look it up.
Yeah,
It's very interesting. I like when I get exposed to things that I had no idea of. And
it
actually,
also look like an anal plug or something like that.
I did not say that.
No, 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 me neither. It's just what?
Actually, one of the things that I've learned in my career, having met quite a few people from Romania, is a sense of resilience. Do you ever think about the fact that being Romanian has sort of like helped you to get to the place where you are right now?
Yeah, for sure, 100%, man. It's like I mean, the context, I think it's everything. Like if you're being born in the 70s in or like 60s in around Silicon Valley, you probably have a high chance to become like a internet or like a tech mogul. Same as if you're being born in Djibouti or Eritrea in the last 1,000 years, your chances are pretty slim to become anything. So I mean, Romania is doing pretty well in a way compared to most of the other countries. It's not like US or China or not even Denmark or something like that, but still it's a pretty well developed country. So I mean, all respect to the place where I'm coming from.
Are you originally from Bucharest?
Yes.
Is that why the office is called Bucharest?
No, it's actually what I like to think. I'm not sure if that's, but what I like to think that the office called Bucharest Studio is that it's we're everybody in the office is coming from like pretty much different places. It's not maybe not even 10% of people coming from Bucharest. So in a way, it's like a place where we all come together that defines us all, or like at least binds us in a way all together. So it's like one thing we all have in common besides being human and maybe being whatever sex is. I don't know, because now it's like a multitude. It's maybe Bucharest is more binding than our sexes, because like there's like a plethora of sexes. They can be like all sorts of things. Whereas if you're from Bucharest, there's like no other way, or like if you live in Bucharest, you live in Bucharest, and that's that.
I love that. We're getting
Yeah.
controversial without getting controversial.
Yeah, no, but it's not even controversial. It's reality of things. It's more like
No, but
it's a given.
I like this. I have quite a few friends from Bucharest, and we're working right now with a person from Cluj. I don't want to share too much information about
Yeah,
this, and we're doing
I
something.
probably already know. Yeah,
And we're doing something together with this person. I don't want to give
yeah,
out too many news yet. But one thing that I love about people from Romania is the fact that they are extremely down to earth and pragmatic about everything. It's like there is no bullshit. 1 plus 1 is 2, and I do not care about anything else, you know? And I love that. Like in today's society where you can make up your own truth, basically, you guys have that ability
Uh,
to cut through the bullshit, right?
but I think it's more like it came as a survival skill, you know. It was more like there was no space for bullshit when we were young. I'm not sure, but like actually it's not true because like I look at the younger generations, they're the same. There's like so little bullshit going on. I don't know where it's coming from. Maybe it's the Eastern Bloc. Maybe it's like some sort of like maybe it's the weather. I don't know, but it's. I mean, I like it. I like it in a way. It's not like unbearable. I can live with it. I don't hate it.
The weather in Romania is fantastic. I've been there a couple of times,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it was never
yeah.
too bad. Is it? Does it get cold in winter in
Yeah,
Bucharest?
it's pretty cold. It even now it's kind of cold, but we still have the sun, which is great. So you could be having a cold, coughing your lungs out, but at least you can go and enjoy the sun. So, you know, it's substantially better than a cloudy, constant weather. I mean, I'm saying this because I did my university in Ireland, and then from Ireland I moved to Denmark. So when I was living in Ireland, I thought that the weather is pretty bad. But then I discovered Denmark, which was kind of like a monstrosity to when it comes to weather. I mean, everything else is great, like social welfare, and then
That is
uh,
very
kind
interesting.
of
So,
like
what made you choose to go to Ireland for the university?
I was dating this girl. She was a violinist, and then I went over to see her for 2 weeks, and ended up doing my master's and finishing my university there. So it's kind of like 2 week journey turned into a 3 years
So,
kind of like
did you study
sentence to it.
at the DIT, the Dublin Institute of Technology?
No. I was down in South in a small city called Cork.
Ah, okay, on the
So
other
it's kind of
side
like
then.
it's down. It's like the tip. It's
Yeah.
very south. Yeah, it's funny. It was like a small university kind of city. It's like 250,000 people there, and I think out of them is 250,000 students. So it was fun to live there. And then I came back to Bucharest, and I was sitting in my room, looking at the computer and thinking, what am I going to do with my life? And then I only liked one architectural office in the world because they used so many colors at the time compared with all the others that were very gray. And I like colors. So I think I applied. It was like a BRK Engels group in Copenhagen. I went over there,
What
spent
year
six
was
months,
that? What year was that?
2010, 2010.
Okay, so that was
I
at the
went to,
beginning of like the boom of big.
exactly. We were 75 when I joined the office. And then when I left, we were like 500, something like that.
Wow.
But yeah, it was pretty huge growth. But I think when I moved over to Denmark, I was I wasn't expecting the weather to get worse than Ireland, but that was just a dream, you know. But in reality, it was just so bad. It's like 8 months of winter in Denmark, so it just starts in about March, and then it doesn't stop until maybe again in I don't know March. So it's like 12 months of winter maybe, with like one day of summer or something like that. But yeah, that was my journey. I really enjoyed it because you bike a lot. You're like healthy. You eat healthy, like all the food. I think because of the weather, people try to compensate to all the other domains. You
Yeah.
know, so in a way, it's pretty
I
nice
think
city to live in.
it's fascinating how in Denmark the because of the fact that like they're can you hear me because it says that I have internet connection issues.
No, I can hear
Okay.
you. You just lagged for like 2 seconds.
Okay. So what I wanted to say is that in Denmark, what's interesting to me is that they have this holistic approach to architecture, and so every time that you go into a building, this building has a lot of different purposes, and this is, I think, due to the fact that everything is so expensive, and so they try to do as much as possible with one building. And so if you think of like the hill that they built with the ski slope and the hiking, and it's a a plant for like burning of the rubbish or something like this, or if you go to the central swimming pool that they have, the baths, and then there is the climbing wall, and there is a lot of activities attached to it. And also the fact that everything has to happen inside because it's so cold throughout the year. That makes it for a very interesting use of the public spaces as well as everything that it's built. Having lived in Copenhagen, when you sort of like work on your own images, do you try to suggest things like this to your clients, architects, and whatnot? Do you make
You
those?
mean things like the hybrid building, or
Yeah,
like the
like
weather,
do
or
you think of adding functions to the work that they do? Do they receive it good?
maybe not particularly as in a direct way, but in a way it's like also like the office where I was working with, like big, they push dramatically for this what they call hedonistic sustainability, where you don't have to take like short cold showers, but you can also just enjoy like a hot shower while like I don't know, having a power plant that's recycling whatever material garbage from your house and then transform that into energy. So in a way, all this like pragmatic way of thinking, it also came from me working 10 years in Denmark. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Like I all respect for everything I've learned in Denmark. And I think maybe that's like an approach that we also have towards our images. It's like this kind of like you have to enjoy the process, and then we also like we suggest a lot of things to our clients, of course, and then but especially now lately, most of our clients, they just trust us with the images. Like on some projects we don't even get comments unless their clients want to give us some comments. But other than that, it's like clients, they just trust us because we've been doing, especially with like our old clients, we've been doing so many images and like animations for them that there's like it's pretty much the same recipe, it's like you do the same thing over and over and over again, and then you just simply become better at it. And then for somebody, it's like imagine you have an athlete, and then you train that guy, and that guy starts running faster and faster and faster. You don't give him like bad criticism anymore. You're like just like, yeah, great job,
Keep going
keep it
fast.
that
Yeah.
way, keep going faster. I like what you're doing. Yeah, so that's pretty much what we're experiencing with most of our established clients. Of course, we have like when it comes to new clients, it becomes a bit more dramatic because they have like they don't know our style and the way we work and stuff like that. So maybe our first drafts they can look shit because we're used to work like that. It's like first draft shit, second draft may be okay, third like draft may be great. But like people get scared when they see like the first draft. Oh man, it's nothing to do with the images you have on your website. I'm like, yeah, man, I know. It's just like wait for it.
Yes,
It's
sometimes I think that what clients don't understand is that you need to have a little bit of time to understand the project, and design in a way it's also a tool to discover and understand things better, right? Um, so I don't know. Sometimes it's just a question of letting them know. Look, in the very beginning, you're gonna see something. You might not like it. That's totally fine. Take a look, give us some feedback, and then we'll make it better.
yeah. Ideally, if I were to talk to you, you would totally get this because you're in the business. But imagine people that have nothing to do with RVs and they're just like expecting hyper realism in the first draft, and you're like, no, 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 wait for it. It's like it's slowly building up.
Man, you know that we've been talking already for 55 minutes.
No, Jesus Christ, and we've said nothing, huh?
But that's the thing,
So much.
like to me, with this kind of conversations, I'm more interested in finding out about the people behind the work. Obviously, we talk about your work, but I love the fact that now I know that you studied in Ireland. I know that you have a friend that makes sculptures. Uh, to me, this is what the community is about, and I know that it's a. I do this very selfishly.
Yeah, that's the no, it's
That's
good.
the word, because like
Yeah,
to me that's what the community is about. And some of the people that I met through these interviews, then we got the chance to meet in person, we became friends, and we've been friends for 15 years, 16 years. And so uh, I don't know. I think what I'm trying to say is that we need to give a little bit more attention to build relationships with people rather than just get information and then, we get out of the picture. You know what I mean? And so I am
Yeah, totally.
happy of the fact that we got to share this 1 hour together.
Sweet man. I feel the same. Also, like it's surprising because it's the first time I'm talking to you ever. Like we never talked
It's true.
before. So in a way, it's just like it's so great because like I got zero sense of your personality from your like videos and stuff like that. That probably I watched at some point like everybody else in the community. Like there's like no way you can escape watching one of your YouTube videos. But then you there's no personality. Like you don't feel the personality of the person in the video. You feel like you get the tech, the info, you get like maybe the links, you understand where to go next and stuff like that. But and now that I sense you, like, or at least I feel you as a person, you're like a complete. You feel such a like a pleasant person to talk to. You
Ah,
know,
thank you. Thank you.
talking about the Romanian bullshitness. No, I mean it. I mean it. I mean, I would totally enjoy having an Aperol spritz with you in
Oh,
Italy,
we'll make it happen.
or
Actually, I might be coming to you
a
guys
cold
earlier.
beer. Yeah,
Ah,
in Cluj, in Cluj. I feel it. But it could be two options in Cluj, so I'm not sure. But I mean, come on, I know it. It's I'm not gonna say.
Lucian,
It's stop.
Lucian, I think this is a very good place to end this conversation. I want to thank
For
you
sure.
so much for taking the time for, lending me your story so that I can share it with our community. I'm going to stop the recording, so don't go anywhere so that I can say goodbye to you. But thank you so much for taking the time, and I hope that people will enjoy this conversation as much as I did.